As the day comes to an end, I take a deep breath, allowing my body and mind to relax. The work, the tasks, the demands of the day have all been completed, and now I can let go. Each effort has brought me closer to my goals, and for that, I am grateful. I acknowledge the things I've done, big and small, and release any remaining tension. The world outside has quieted, and I too embrace the stillness of the night. It is now time to simply be, to find peace in the moment. I close my eyes and take a deep breath, inhaling calm and exhaling any lingering stress. With every breath, I feel the weight of the day lifting off me, leaving me lighter and more at ease. The responsibilities of the day no longer need my attention. I trust that everything I did today was enough and that tomorrow will bring new opportunities. For now, I let go of the need to do, to solve, or to worry. The evening is here and I am safe. As my body sinks into the softness of the bed, I remind myself that I've done my best today. I have given my all, and now it's time to rest. I trust the process of life, knowing that everything is unfolding as it should. The world outside may be busy, but here, in this moment, I can find quiet and peace. I allow myself to embrace the stillness, releasing every lingering thought of stress or tension. The night is a time for renewal. I let go of the day's burdens, knowing that sleep will restore me. My mind, my body, and my spirit are all deserving of rest. I trust that as I sleep, I will find the rejuvenation I need, and when I wake up, I will be ready to face a new day with fresh energy and perspective. I close my eyes, knowing I am exactly where I need to be, and surrender to the peaceful embrace of sleep. Let's dive into our bedtime story. Timmy had always been curious. While most children in his village were content to play in the meadows, chasing butterflies and jumping rope, Timmy's heart was drawn to the woods that bordered their small town. To him, the forest wasn't just a collection of trees and shadows. It was a living, breathing world, full of stories waiting to be discovered. His mother always reminded him to stay close to the familiar paths, to avoid wandering too far into the deeper parts of the woods. But Timmy never listened, and that day, as the warm afternoon sun began to dip behind the hills, he found himself standing at the edge of a new, narrow trail he had never seen before. The familiar path he usually walked on was winding and well-worn, traveled by villagers and animals alike. But this new path was different. It looked older, more secretive, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. Vines curled around the entrance like a greeting, as if urging him forward. Timmy felt a thrill run through his veins. He hesitated for only a moment, his heart pounding with excitement. The idea of discovering something new, something magical, was too tempting to resist. He took a deep breath and stepped onto the trail, brushing aside the thick branches that hung low overhead, feeling the coolness of the forest envelop him. The deeper he went, the quieter the world around him became. The usual sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves seemed distant, as though they had been muffled by the very air itself. The trees here were taller, their trunks thick and ancient, their bark rough and weathered by time. Timmy could sense that this part of the forest was older than the rest, untouched by the hands of men, holding secrets that only the oldest trees knew. The path twisted and turned, narrowing at times and widening at others, but always leading him deeper into the heart of the forest. As he ventured farther, Timmy felt the weight of silence settle around him. There was something almost magical about the place, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. It wasn't just the stillness, it was the way the light seemed to filter through the leaves, casting everything in a soft, golden glow. The air smelled earthy, like fresh moss and damp soil, and the ground beneath his feet was soft, almost spongy, as if it had absorbed years of stories and secrets. Timmy's heart raced with excitement as he pushed forward, eager to see what lay beyond the next bend. And then, without warning, the trees parted, revealing a small, hidden clearing. In the center of the clearing stood an enormous tree, so large that its trunk seemed to stretch all the way to the sky. Its bark was a deep, rich brown, etched with lines that looked like ancient symbols. The branches of the tree spread wide, their leaves shimmering with a faint, ethereal glow, as though the tree itself was alive with some hidden power. Timmy stood in awe, his mouth slightly open, unable to take his eyes off the tree. He had never seen anything like it before. It felt as though time itself had stopped, and he had stumbled upon something sacred. He took a step forward, but as he did, something extraordinary happened. The tree, this enormous, ancient oak, spoke. "Why do you look so surprised, young one?" The voice was deep and resonant, like a distant rumble of thunder, yet warm and welcoming. Timmy froze, his eyes wide in disbelief. His breath caught in his chest. Did you speak?" he whispered, his voice shaky as he took another cautious step back. "I speak," the tree responded gently, its voice flowing like the rustling of leaves in a breeze. "I am Old Oak, the guardian of this forest, and you, Timmy, are the one who has been chosen to help save it." Timmy's mind raced. He had read stories of talking animals and enchanted creatures, but he never imagined that something like this could happen to him. His pulse quickened, and a mix of fear and excitement bubbled up in his chest. "Save it," Timmy echoed. The tree's branches swayed, though there was no wind. "Yes," Old Oak said, the light in its leaves flickering like tiny stars. "The forest is in great danger. Its heart is weakening, and the magic that keeps it alive is fading. Only one with a pure heart can help restore it." Timmy swallowed hard, trying to process the weight of the words. He had never been one for grand quests or magical adventures. He was just a normal boy from a small village. "What can I do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "You must find the heart of the forest," Old Oak explained. "It is hidden deep within the woods, and it is the source of all the forest's magic. But it is guarded by many dangers, and only the bravest of souls can reach it." Timmy stared at the tree, unsure whether to believe what he was hearing. But something about Old Oak's voice, its calm certainty, made him want to believe. "But how will I find it?" Timmy asked, still unsure of himself. Old Oak's voice softened. "You will not be alone in this journey, Timmy. The forest will guide you, and its creatures will help. The forest will guide you, and its creatures will help you along the way. But you must remember, the heart of the forest can only be saved by one who is pure of heart and strong of spirit. Do you think you are that one?" Timmy stood there for a long moment, the weight of the question pressing on his chest. He thought of his village, his family, and all the people who depended on the forest. He thought of the trees, the animals, and the peace that came from living in harmony with nature. And then, without fully understanding why, Timmy nodded. "I'll do it," he said, his voice growing stronger. "I'll help save the forest." Old Oak's leaves shimmered, and a deep, resonant hum filled the air. "Then you must begin your journey now, young Timmy. The fate of the forest rests in your hands." And with that, the adventure began. Timmy stood there for a long moment, his heart racing, trying to understand the weight of Old Oak's words. The idea of saving an entire forest, of embarking on a journey through its hidden depths, was both terrifying and thrilling. He glanced back at the trail he had come from. His village was a long way off, and his mother would never expect him to be gone for so long. But something inside him knew that he couldn't turn back now. The forest needed him, and he had been chosen for a reason. With a deep breath, Timmy nodded. "I'll go," he said, his voice quieter now but steady. "I'll find the heart of the forest." Old Oak's leaves shimmered as if the tree was smiling. "Good," the tree said in a voice that sounded like wind rustling through the branches. "But remember, the heart is not just a place. It is a force, a pulse of life. You must reach it before the darkness that threatens the forest consumes it completely. Follow the path, trust the creatures of the forest, and never lose hope." Timmy glanced around, feeling a mixture of excitement and unease. The clearing felt peaceful, but he knew that danger lurked ahead, hidden among the trees. The forest wasn't just a place of beauty, it was also full of secrets, and not all of them were friendly. He began walking slowly, the path ahead becoming less clear as the trees grew denser. The air felt cooler now, and a soft mist had begun to roll in, making everything look dreamlike and distant. Timmy's steps were muffled by the thick carpet of moss and fallen leaves, and the only sounds were the soft crackle of twigs beneath his feet and the occasional distant call of an animal. As he ventured deeper, the sunlight grew dimmer, blocked by the thick canopy overhead. Hours seemed to pass as Timmy wandered through the forest, unsure of which way to go. He had no map, no directions, only the soft glow of the enchanted stone old oak had given him. The stone, which had been cool and smooth when Timmy first held it, now pulsed gently in his pocket, as if it had come alive with a purpose. Just when Timmy thought he couldn't walk any farther, a low hoot echoed from above. Looking up, he saw a large, wise owl perched on a nearby branch. Its feathers were a soft gray, and its golden eyes gleamed with intelligence. "You seem lost, young one," the owl said, its voice rich and deep, though it wasn't much louder than the wind. Timmy's eyes widened. "You can talk?" he asked, astonished. "Of course I can," the owl replied with a wink. "You're not the first to speak with the creatures of the forest. The heart of the forest calls to those who are destined to protect it. You're on the right path, but there's much you don't know yet." I don't know where I'm going," Timmy admitted, a little embarrassed. "The forest is huge, and I don't know what's ahead." The owl tilted its head, considering. "The forest is full of twists and turns. But there is one thing you must remember: trust what you hear, trust what you feel, and trust the forest itself. It will guide you if you're willing to listen." Timmy thought about this. Trust the forest. It sounded simple enough, but how could he do that? He had always been used to following paths and signs, not relying on his feelings. Still, something in the owl's calm presence made him feel that there was truth in its words. "Thank you," Timmy said finally, his voice gaining strength. The owl gave him a knowing look. "Keep going," the owl said. "Follow the path until you find the clearing with the stone circle. That is where the first trial will begin." Before Timmy could ask more questions, the owl spread its wings and flew off into the mist, vanishing into the trees with hardly a sound. Timmy stood for a moment, processing what the owl had said. A stone circle? He had no idea where to find it, but he had no choice but to trust the owl and keep moving. He continued on, the fog growing thicker and the forest darker. The sounds around him shifted. Whispers seemed to come from the trees, soft murmurings that seemed to beckon him forward. Timmy took a deep breath and let the forest's quiet power fill him. The stone in his pocket pulsed again, and he instinctively reached for it, feeling its warmth now, as though it were trying to point him in the right direction. Eventually, through the mist, Timmy saw a flicker of light, a small, glowing circle in the distance. He quickened his pace, feeling the pull of something important ahead. As he drew closer, the mist parted slightly, and he saw a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a ring of large, weathered stones. Each one was inscribed with runes that glowed faintly, casting an eerie light on the ground around them. Timmy approached cautiously. He could feel the energy in the air, thick with magic, but it was different from the peaceful feeling he had experienced near Old Oak. This place was ancient, filled with power that Timmy couldn't yet understand. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the clearing, and the stones began to glow brighter. The ground beneath Timmy's feet shifted, and the air grew colder, as if the forest was holding its breath. Before Timmy could react, the largest stone in the center of the circle cracked open, revealing a hidden passage beneath it. Timmy's heart raced as he took a step back, unsure of what to do. From the darkness below, a voice boomed, deep, ancient, and powerful. "Only those who seek truth may pass," the voice intoned, echoing off the stones. "Prove your heart, prove your courage, and you will move forward. Fail, and you will be lost forever in the depths of the forest." Timmy swallowed hard, the weight of the challenge settling on his shoulders. What did it mean to prove his heart? How could he show his courage in a place that seemed so full of ancient mysteries and dangers? But there was no turning back now. He took a deep breath, steadying himself, and stepped forward, feeling the eyes of the forest on him. "I'm ready," Timmy said quietly, though his voice trembled. "I'll prove myself." The stones around him pulsed with light, and the air grew even heavier with anticipation. Timmy could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was only the beginning, and already, the trials had begun. Timmy's heart thudded in his chest as he stood before the glowing stones. The voice from the depths of the earth still echoed in his ears, a reminder of the gravity of the trial ahead. "Prove your heart, prove your courage, and you will move forward. Fail, and you will be lost forever in the depths of the forest." The words lingered, filling the air with a heavy silence. Timmy swallowed, feeling the coldness of the forest seep into his bones. He had never felt so small, so vulnerable, surrounded by these ancient stones and the eerie hum of magic in the air. But he wasn't about to turn back now. He had made a promise, to Old Oak, to the forest, and to himself. "I'm ready," he whispered again, his voice barely above the soft rustling of the leaves. The stone circle seemed to respond to his words, its glow intensifying. A soft breeze stirred the mist that surrounded him, and the ground beneath his feet trembled slightly. The voice boomed once more, this time more urgent, as if testing him. "What is it that you seek, young one? Is it power? Glory? Or are you here for something more?" Timmy's mind raced. The question felt like an accusation, as if the forest itself was challenging his intentions. Was he truly here to help the forest, or was he merely seeking adventure, seeking something for himself? His thoughts swirled, and doubt gnawed at the edges of his mind. "I seek to save the forest," Timmy said, his voice steadier this time, though uncertainty still fluttered in his chest. "I want to help. The forest is dying. I can't just leave it like this." The stones around him trembled, the runes etched into their surfaces glowing brighter. The voice spoke again, but now it was softer, almost kind. "Very well. To prove your heart, you must face the trial within yourself. Only when you are honest with your deepest fears will you find the way forward." Suddenly, the mist thickened, swirling around Timmy like a dense fog. He could no longer see the stones, the trees, or even the path behind him. The air grew heavier, and the temperature dropped sharply. Timmy's breath formed a visible cloud in front of him. His senses were overwhelmed. He could feel the weight of the forest pressing in on him from all sides. A shadow moved within the mist. At first, it was just a silhouette, but as it drew closer, Timmy's heart skipped a beat. The figure emerged from the fog. A tall, cloaked figure with an eerie presence, its face hidden in the shadows of its hood. Timmy felt a surge of panic rush through him. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. The figure didn't answer but instead raised a hand, gesturing for Timmy to follow. With a sense of dread creeping up his spine, Timmy stepped forward. The figure led him through the thick fog, the path twisting in a way that seemed impossible. The world around him seemed to distort, and the air hummed with an energy he couldn't explain. Finally, they reached a clearing, unlike any Timmy had seen before. The trees were twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The ground was covered with dead leaves, and the air was thick with an oppressive stillness. The figure stopped in the center of the clearing and turned to face Timmy. "This is where your trial will begin," the figure intoned, its voice hollow, like the sound of wind howling through an abandoned place. "Here, you must confront what you fear most. Only when you face your fear will the forest allow you to pass." Timmy stood frozen, his heart racing. His fear? What did the figure mean by that? As if in answer, the mist parted just enough for him to see the ground before him. The leaves there were darker than the rest, and when Timmy stepped closer, he realized they were wet with something thick and red. A cold shiver ran down his spine. His eyes widened in horror as the wetness began to spread, staining the leaves, pooling together to form shapes. The shapes began to take form, twisting and shifting like shadows, until they solidified into the twisted, monstrous shapes of creatures he had seen in his nightmares. The creatures were dark, with glowing eyes and sharp claws, their forms half human, half beast. Their mouths opened in silent screams, their eyes burning with hunger. Timmy felt his chest tighten as the creatures advanced toward him, their footsteps echoing in the silence. For a moment, he froze. His mind screamed for him to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The creatures were closing in, and the fear in his chest was suffocating. These creatures, these monsters, they were the embodiment of his worst fears. The fear of being alone, the fear of failing, the fear of not being good enough. The tallest of the creatures reached out a clawed hand, and Timmy instinctively took a step back. But then, something shifted inside him. He remembered the forest, the creatures who had helped him along the way, Old Oak's words. "The forest needs me." Timmy took a deep breath, his hands trembling. He refused to let fear take control. He could feel the stone in his pocket pulse again, warmer now, as if it were responding to his resolve. He wasn't alone. He was part of something greater. With newfound determination, Timmy took a step forward. The creatures paused, their eyes narrowing, but Timmy stood his ground. "I'm not afraid of you," he said, his voice trembling but stronger than before. "You're just shadows, just fears. I won't let you control me." As he spoke, the creatures faltered, their forms flickering and growing weaker. The mist around them began to lift, and the twisted figures started to dissolve into the air, their menacing growls fading into nothingness. Timmy's heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't look away. He had faced his fear. He had confronted the darkness inside him. With a final, resounding hiss, the creatures disappeared entirely, and the mist that had clouded the clearing began to dissipate, leaving the forest calm once more. Timmy stood there for a long moment, breathing deeply, feeling the weight of the trial lift from his shoulders. A voice echoed through the clearing, but this time, it wasn't the shadowy figure. It was the voice of the forest itself, warm and kind. "You have passed the first trial, Timmy. You have faced your fear and emerged stronger. The path ahead is now open to you." Timmy exhaled, his heart still racing, but a sense of pride and relief washed over him. He had done it. He had faced his deepest fear and overcome it. The forest had tested him, but he had proven that he was ready. With a final glance at the now peaceful clearing, Timmy turned and continued on the path, knowing that there were many more challenges ahead. But he also knew deep down that he was no longer the same boy who had stepped into the forest just hours ago. He had proven his courage, and with that, he was one step closer to saving the heart of the forest. Timmy walked deeper into the heart of the forest, his steps now more certain than before. The trial of facing his fears had left him both shaken and strengthened. The fear that had gripped him moments ago seemed to have dissipated, leaving him with a new sense of clarity, though the forest still held its secrets. The soft glow from the enchanted stone in his pocket had now become a steady pulse, a quiet guide that seemed to resonate with the very rhythm of the forest itself. The trees around him were tall, their branches interlaced high above, creating a canopy that shut out much of the sunlight, leaving the ground below bathed in an ethereal twilight. Despite the peace that had settled in his heart after the trial, Timmy couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that there was something just out of sight, lurking behind the shadows. The air around him was thick with the scent of earth and moss, and the ground beneath his feet felt soft, almost spongy, as if it had been untouched by time. There was a strange stillness now. The usual sounds of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, had fallen silent, and the only sound Timmy could hear was the steady rhythm of his own breathing. As he continued, the trees began to thin, and the mist that had clung to the forest floor started to clear. In the distance, he could make out the shape of a large stone structure, partially obscured by the thick vines and creeping moss. It looked ancient, older even than the trees themselves. Timmy felt drawn to it, as if the forest were urging him forward. When he reached the stone structure, he found himself standing before an archway, an entrance to what appeared to be a forgotten temple, its once pristine stonework now weathered by centuries of age. The arch was covered in intricate carvings, spiraling patterns that seemed to move and shift in the dim light, as though they were alive. The air here felt different, charged, almost electric. Timmy could feel a low hum reverberating in the ground beneath him, a soft but unmistakable vibration that seemed to call out to him. Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind, soft yet unmistakable. "You have come far, young one. But the forest is not done with you yet." Timmy's heart skipped a beat as he looked around, trying to locate the source of the voice. It wasn't the voice of the forest, it wasn't the voice of old oak or the owl. This voice was different, more mysterious, as if it came from the very stones around him. The voice continued, this time more urgent. "The heart of the forest is close, but the path is treacherous. You must pass through the temple of shadows to reach it. Within, you will face trials that will test your resolve in ways you cannot yet imagine. You will face the darkness within yourself, and only by confronting it can you continue your journey." Timmy swallowed, feeling a cold shiver run down his spine. The Temple of Shadows. He had heard stories of such places, forgotten temples hidden deep within the forest, where only those with a pure heart could pass. But the mention of facing the darkness within himself made his stomach twist with fear. "What do I need to do?" he asked aloud, though the voice had not spoken to him directly. The voice answered, not in words but in a rush of images, memories that flashed through his mind like lightning. He saw images of himself as a child, his mother telling him to be brave, his friends laughing, the warmth of home. But then the images darkened, and Timmy saw himself alone, abandoned, scared, and lost. His past fears, his doubts, and his insecurities all surfaced, swirling around him in the form of shadowy shapes. "You must let go of the fear that holds you back," the voice whispered. "Only then will the shadows dissipate, and you will be able to pass." Timmy's heart pounded. He had already faced one trial, the trial of his fear, but this was different. This wasn't just confronting monsters or creatures of the forest. This was confronting his own darkness, the parts of himself that he kept hidden even from his closest friends and family. With a deep breath, Timmy stepped forward into the archway. The air around him seemed to thicken, and the ground beneath his feet felt like it was pulling him down. The temple walls loomed around him, covered in ancient runes that pulsed with a faint, eerie glow. The temple was eerily silent, and as Timmy stepped deeper inside, he felt the temperature drop, a chill seeping into his bones. The soft hum from outside had been replaced by an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing from somewhere deep within the temple. Suddenly, the ground beneath Timmy's feet began to tremble. The walls of the temple seemed to shift, and from the shadows emerged strange figures, tall, cloaked beings whose faces were hidden in the darkness. Their eyes glowed a faint red, and their presence seemed to suck the warmth and light from the air. The figures moved toward him slowly, their movements deliberate, as though they were waiting for something. Timmy's heart raced, and for a moment he thought about turning back. But then he remembered Old Oak's words, "The forest needs me. I have to keep going." He had made it this far and he couldn't stop now. One of the shadowy figures stepped forward, its form flickering in and out of view, as if it wasn't entirely real. Its voice echoed in the air, soft and cold. "Do you fear us, little one? Do you fear what you cannot see, what you cannot control?" Timmy stood tall, though his hands trembled at his sides. He remembered the owl's advice: trust what you feel, trust the forest, and trust yourself. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the pulse of the stone in his pocket calm his nerves. When he opened his eyes again, he took a step forward, refusing to show fear. "I don't fear you," he said, his voice steady, though he could feel the sweat forming on his brow. "I fear failing the forest. I fear not being strong enough to help." The shadowy figure paused, and for a moment, there was silence. The others, too, seemed to wait as if considering his words. "You are strong enough," the figure said, its voice softening. "Your strength lies not in power, but in your heart. The darkness you face is not us, but the fear that resides within you. Face it and you will pass." Timmy's breath caught in his throat. The darkness within me. It wasn't the shadowy figures that he had to defeat. It was his own doubts, his own insecurities. He closed his eyes and thought about everything he had experienced. The fear of being alone, the fear of failure, the weight of expectations that had always pressed on him. All of it seemed to rise up inside him, trying to drown him in its depth. But Timmy took a deep breath and centered himself. "I will face my darkness," he whispered, his voice clear and strong. "And I will not let it control me." The shadowy figures seemed to fade, their forms evaporating into the air like mist in the morning sun. The cold that had gripped Timmy's body began to lift, replaced by a warm, gentle glow. The runes on the temple walls pulsed brightly, and the hum that had once filled the air returned, this time welcoming and comforting. The temple had tested him once again, forcing him to confront the fears that lived deep inside him. And once again, Timmy had emerged stronger, more determined to fulfill his quest. The path ahead remained uncertain, but Timmy knew one thing for sure: he was no longer just a boy from a small village. He was the forest protector, and he would stop at nothing to save it. Timmy's legs were sore from the long journey, and his mind still hummed with the energy of the trials he had just faced. The Temple of Shadows had pushed him to confront things he had buried deep within himself: doubts, fears, and regrets that had once seemed insurmountable. But with each trial he overcame, he felt himself growing stronger, more attuned to the forest, more aware of the invisible threads that connected him to its ancient magic. Now, as he walked through the increasingly dense forest, the air felt different. It was heavier, thick with the weight of something he could not yet understand. The pulse of the enchanted stone in his pocket had quickened, its glow steady and bright, as if urging him forward. Timmy couldn't help but feel that the forest itself was alive with anticipation, as though it were waiting for him to reach its heart, waiting for him to prove himself worthy. The path ahead was narrow, winding between trees that seemed to close in around him, their branches curling like gnarled fingers. The air was thick with mist, but it wasn't the same kind of mist he had encountered before. This was darker, swirling with an almost tangible presence, as if something unseen was watching him. The feeling of being followed, of unseen eyes tracking his every movement, returned with a vengeance. Timmy's breath quickened, but he refused to let fear take hold again. He had faced his worst fears in the temple, and now he was ready for whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted. The earth trembled, and the trees around him creaked as if they were alive and shifting in response to some unseen force. Timmy froze, his pulse racing. Was it the forest itself that was moving? Or was it something darker? Before he could process what was happening, the mist parted before him, revealing a small clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a massive, ancient tree, far larger than any tree Timmy had seen before. Its trunk was twisted and gnarled, its roots sprawling out like the arms of a giant, gripping the earth as though trying to pull it into the depths. The tree's bark shimmered with an iridescent glow, and its branches stretched high into the sky, their leaves a vibrant green despite the thick mist that surrounded them. This was it, the heart of the forest. Timmy approached cautiously, feeling a wave of awe and reverence wash over him. He could feel the pulse of magic in the air, the heartbeat of the forest itself. The tree seemed to hum with energy, and as Timmy stepped closer, he heard a soft voice calling to him from within the tree, its words faint but unmistakable. "Timmy." He stopped in his tracks, his heart skipping a beat. The voice came from deep within the tree, its roots, its bark, its very being. Timmy swallowed, not sure if he was hearing things or if the tree was actually speaking to him. But there was no mistaking it. This was the heart of the forest, and it was speaking to him. "Timmy, you have come far," the voice continued, its tone ancient and wise, yet filled with sorrow. "But you are too late. The darkness has already taken root within this place." Timmy's heart sank as he listened to the words. He had known the journey would be difficult, but to hear that the heart of the forest was already under threat filled him with dread. He had been so sure that he could save the forest, that he could protect it. But now, the weight of the situation seemed unbearable. "What do you mean?" Timmy asked, his voice trembling. "The darkness? It's already here?" The tree's voice seemed to grow even quieter, as though it were struggling to communicate. The heart of the forest has always been a place of balance. But now there is a force, an ancient force, that seeks to corrupt it, to drain it of its life. It has already begun, but it is not too late. There is still hope. Timmy's mind raced. How can I stop it? What can I do? There was a long pause before the heart of the forest responded. To save the forest, you must face the source of the darkness. You must go to the Hollow of Echoes, where the corruption began. There, you will find the root of the darkness. It is there that you must strike, before it spreads beyond the forest and consumes all. The Hollow of Echoes. Timmy had heard whispers of it before. The deepest part of the forest, a place where even the bravest souls feared to tread. It was said that the Hollow was a place of great power, but also a place of great danger. No one had ventured there in centuries, for those who did were never seen again. But Timmy knew there was no choice. He couldn't let the darkness spread. The forest, the animals, the trees, all of it depended on him. The weight of the responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders, but there was a part of him that had never felt more alive. He had faced so much already, and now, the final test awaited him. "I will go," Timmy said, his voice firm with resolve. "I will find the Hollow of Echoes, and I will stop the darkness." The heart of the forest sighed, its voice heavy with both sadness and gratitude. "You are brave, Timmy. But remember, the darkness within the hollow is not only a physical force. It will seek to manipulate you, to use your doubts and fears against you. You must stay true to yourself, to the forest, and to the promise you made." Timmy nodded, his heart filled with determination. He had come too far to turn back now. With a final glance at the great tree, he turned and began his journey toward the Hollow of Echoes. The journey to the Hollow of Echoes was unlike anything Timmy had experienced so far. The air grew colder as he moved deeper into the forest, the mist thickening and swirling around him. The trees seemed to close in tighter, their twisted branches reaching down like fingers, as if trying to hold him back. Timmy pressed forward, his grip tight on the enchanted stone in his pocket. It pulsed with warmth, guiding him through the darkened forest. Despite the unease that gnawed at him, Timmy pushed forward, his resolve stronger than ever. He knew he had to reach the hollow and confront the source of the darkness before it consumed everything. After what felt like hours of walking, the forest finally opened up into a vast clearing. At the far side of the clearing, Timmy could see the entrance to a cave, a jagged, blackened opening in the earth that seemed to swallow the light. This was it, the Hollow of Echoes. As he approached the cave, a deep, rumbling voice echoed from within. It was a low, guttural sound that seemed to reverberate through the very ground beneath him. "You should not have come, child." Timmy's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't falter. "I have to stop you," he said, his voice steady. "I won't let the forest fall to your darkness." From within the cave, two glowing eyes appeared in the darkness, watching him, waiting. The air grew colder, and a feeling of dread filled Timmy's chest. But he squared his shoulders, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The final confrontation was about to begin. The cave's entrance loomed before Timmy, an ominous, yawning void that swallowed all light. He could feel the air shift, heavy and suffocating as he stepped closer. The pulse of the enchanted stone in his pocket had grown faint, as though the stone itself was hesitant to go further. But Timmy knew he had no choice. This was the only way to save the forest. With one last deep breath, Timmy stepped into the cave. The air inside was cold and damp, and the ground beneath his feet was uneven, sharp rocks poking at his boots. The walls of the cave seemed to close in around him, slick with moisture, and the deeper he went, the darker it became. The faint light from the outside world had long since faded, leaving him in almost complete blackness. But as he moved further, the faintest glow began to appear, soft and pulsing like a heartbeat. It was distant at first, but as he drew closer, the light grew stronger, more intense, until it illuminated the path before him. The glow was coming from deeper within the cave, a faint blue radiance that flickered like an ethereal flame. As Timmy pressed on, the sense of being watched returned, stronger than ever. The cave seemed alive, its walls whispering, its very air pressing against him, as though it was pushing him to turn back. But Timmy gritted his teeth and kept moving forward, driven by his promise to the forest, to Old Oak, and to himself. After what felt like hours of walking, the path finally opened into a vast, cavernous chamber. The walls of the cave stretched high above him, and the glowing light in the center of the room grew even brighter. The source of the light was now clear, a large, pulsating crystal suspended in midair, radiating energy like the beating heart of the forest itself. It floated above a pit of swirling darkness, its surface covered in deep cracks, and the air around it vibrated with a low, menacing hum. This was the source of the darkness, the heart of corruption. Timmy's heart pounded in his chest as he stepped into the chamber. The crystal seemed to recognize his presence, its glow flickering for a moment before steadying. And then, the voice returned, louder this time, filling the cavern with its oppressive presence. "You are too late, child," the voice echoed from every direction, as if the very walls of the cave were speaking to him. "The forest is already mine. Its heart is mine." The voice was cold, cruel, and full of malice, and Timmy's legs threatened to buckle beneath him. The darkness around the crystal swirled, growing more violent, reaching out like tendrils to wrap around him. He felt the air grow even heavier, thick with dread. The shadows seemed to grow in size, taking shape, shifting into figures that he recognized all too well, monsters from his past fears, each one more terrifying than the last. Their glowing eyes fixated on him, and their growls reverberated through the air. But Timmy stood firm, despite the fear clawing at him from all sides. He knew what he had to do. He had to stay true to himself, just as the heart of the forest had told him. His strength wasn't in defeating the shadows, it was in refusing to let them control him. The voice in the chamber mocked him, its tone dripping with contempt. "You think you can stop me, little boy? The darkness is in your heart too. I have seen it. I have seen your doubts, your fears, your weaknesses. You cannot defeat me." Timmy clenched his fists. He had heard these words before. His fear, his doubt, they had tried to stop him at every turn. But this time, he wasn't going to let them. He wasn't going to let the shadows control him. With a deep breath, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the enchanted stone. It pulsed warmly in his hand, its light flickering in response to the energy in the room. The darkness seemed to recoil for a moment, but it quickly returned, growing bolder. "You cannot stop me," the voice repeated, now seeming to come from everywhere. "You are nothing compared to the power I wield." Timmy stepped forward, the stone in his hand glowing brighter as he approached the crystal. The air crackled with tension, but he held his ground. The darkness was everywhere, surrounding him, whispering to him, trying to drown him in fear. But he refused to listen. "You are wrong," Timmy said, his voice firm. "I am not nothing. I am the forest protector, and I will not let you win." As he spoke, the stone in his hand began to glow even brighter, its light now cutting through the darkness, pushing it back. The shadows writhed and hissed as they were pushed away by the pure energy of the stone. The voice, no longer just a whisper, but a roar of anger, filled the cavern. "You think you can defeat me with light? I am darkness incarnate. You cannot stop me." Timmy's heart raced, but he knew what he had to do. The stone was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of his strength, his will, his connection to the forest. He raised it high, focusing all his energy into it, and shouted with all his might, "I am not afraid." The crystal in the center of the chamber trembled, its light flickering erratically. The darkness around Timmy twisted violently, but he held his ground, allowing the power of the enchanted stone to surge through him. The air in the cavern thickened, the energy rising to a crescendo, and for a moment, everything seemed to hold its breath. And then, with a deafening crack, the crystal shattered. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the broken pieces, filling the cavern and blinding Timmy. The darkness roared in pain, retreating into the cracks of the cave, its presence shrinking until it was no more than a whisper. The oppressive weight in the air began to lift, the shadows dissipating into nothing. Timmy fell to his knees, exhausted, his breath ragged, but as he looked up, the light in the cave began to shift. The heart of corruption had been destroyed, its power broken. The once dominant darkness was gone, leaving only the soft, healing light of the forest in its place. Timmy looked around, his body trembling from the intense energy that had surged through him. The walls of the cave now seemed to hum with a gentle resonance, the air no longer heavy with malice. The heart of the forest's power had been restored. He had done it. But there was one more thing to be done. As Timmy stood, the voice of the heart of the forest echoed softly, filled with gratitude. "You have saved us, Timmy. You have proven yourself worthy. The forest is healed. But remember, darkness will always try to return. It is up to those like you, those with pure hearts, to protect the balance." Timmy nodded, feeling the weight of his responsibility settle once more on his shoulders. But now he understood. The forest, with all its magic and mysteries, would always need someone to protect it. And he was that protector. With a final look at the now peaceful cave, Timmy made his way back toward the surface, the light of the enchanted stone once again steady in his pocket, guiding him. He had completed his journey, but in many ways, his real adventure was just beginning. The walk back through the forest felt different, almost surreal. The oppressive shadows that had once clung to every tree, every rock, had dissipated. The forest was alive again, breathing in the warm light of the early morning sun that pierced through the canopy in golden rays. Birds began to sing in the distance, and the soft rustling of leaves filled the air, as if the trees themselves were rejoicing. Timmy's footsteps were lighter now, but his body ached with the remnants of the battle. He had given everything, his courage, his heart, his very will, to defeat the heart of corruption and save the forest. And while the weight of the task had lifted, a new responsibility had taken its place. The heart of the forest had spoken, and Timmy now understood that his role as protector wasn't a fleeting one. It was his destiny. The enchanted stone in his pocket pulsed with warmth, its glow steady and constant. It had been with him from the very beginning of his journey, and it would continue to guide him, just as it had when he first set foot in the forest. But now, it was more than just a tool. It was a symbol of the bond he had formed with the forest, and with the magic that flowed through its veins. As Timmy made his way back toward the clearing where he had first met Old Oak, the ancient tree's towering form emerged from the mist. The great tree stood silent for a moment, its bark still and unchanging, but then, the leaves rustled as if responding to his arrival. "Timmy," came Old Oak's voice, soft but filled with pride. "You have done what no one else could have done. You have saved the forest." Timmy stopped in front of the tree, looking up at the wise, ancient being. His heart swelled with gratitude and a sense of accomplishment. "I didn't do it alone," he said, his voice humble. "The forest helped me. You helped me. The stone, the trials, everything came together." Old Oak's great branches swayed, and the ground beneath Timmy seemed to tremble gently. "You are wrong, Timmy. You did not just follow the path laid before you, you forged your own. You found strength in yourself, in the heart of the forest, and in the very magic that lives in this land. That is what makes you worthy." A warm, golden light seemed to emanate from the tree, and Timmy felt the embrace of the forest's magic wash over him once again. It was soothing, comforting, and full of life. He realized now that he had not only saved the forest from darkness, he had become part of it. His heart beat in time with the pulse of the ancient trees, his soul intertwined with the very essence of the land. But there was still so much he didn't understand, so much more to learn. The journey he had completed was only the beginning. Timmy knew that as long as he carried the stone and the bond he had forged with the forest, he would always be called upon when darkness threatened. And there would always be more trials, more challenges to face, more choices to make. "You are the guardian now, Timmy," Old Oak continued. "You must protect the balance. The forest will always need you, as it needs all of its protectors. We have done our part in guiding you, but now, you must do your part in protecting what is sacred." Timmy nodded, a sense of solemnity settling over him. He understood. The weight of his new responsibility was heavy, but he was ready for it. He had faced his fears and emerged stronger, and now he would protect the forest for as long as he lived. "I will protect it," Timmy said, his voice steady. "I promise." Old Oak's deep voice rumbled softly, like the sound of distant thunder. "I know you will. The magic of the forest will always be with you, Timmy. And when the time comes for you to pass the torch to the next guardian, the forest will know." The warmth of the moment lingered in the air, but soon, Timmy realized that it was time to leave. He had completed his mission, but there was still much of the world outside the forest that awaited him. As much as he had come to love this place, he knew he couldn't stay forever. He had a life to live, and he would continue to grow, learn, and experience the world beyond the trees. As he turned to leave, the trees around him seemed to sway in a soft breeze, as if saying goodbye. The forest had given him everything, strength, wisdom, and purpose, and now it was time for him to walk the path he had chosen. He would return, of course, but for now, the road ahead was his to walk. With one last glance at Old Oak, Timmy stepped forward, his heart light with the knowledge that he had done something extraordinary. He had saved the forest, and in doing so, he had saved himself. Years passed, and Timmy grew into a young man. His connection with the forest never wavered. He continued to visit Old Oak and the other sacred trees, learning from them and protecting the forest's delicate balance. As the guardian, Timmy's role became even more important with time. He kept the peace, fought the encroaching darkness when it arose, and ensured that the magic of the forest remained intact for future generations. But Timmy's journey was far from over. The world beyond the forest was vast, filled with challenges and mysteries that beckoned him. He traveled far and wide, sharing the wisdom he had learned from the trees, guiding others to understand the magic of nature and the importance of protecting it. And as he grew older, Timmy knew that one day, another would come, someone worthy of taking his place as the protector of the forest. When that time came, the forest would call to them, just as it had called to him. Until then, Timmy would walk the path of the guardian, his heart forever connected to the land he had saved. The forest had given him purpose, and in return, he would continue to protect it, now and always. Years had passed, and the forest had thrived under Timmy's protection. The once darkened land was now a vibrant tapestry of life, with each tree, plant, and animal flourishing in the light of balance that Timmy had restored. As the guardian of the forest, Timmy had learned to communicate with the creatures of the woods, to understand the language of the leaves, the rustling of the branches, and the whispers of the earth itself. But despite the peace that surrounded him, there was a quiet stirring beneath the surface. Timmy felt it in the winds, in the shifting shadows. The forest, though thriving, was not immune to change. He could sense that something new was brewing, something he had yet to comprehend fully. It was a quiet morning when it first happened. Timmy had just finished his morning walk along the forest's edge, where the trees thinned and the sunlight broke through the canopy, casting dappled shadows across the forest floor. As he approached the heart of the woods, where old oak still stood proud and ancient, a strange feeling washed over him, a sensation that something, or someone, was waiting for him. The air grew heavier, charged with an energy he hadn't felt in years. Timmy stopped and looked around, his hand instinctively reaching for the enchanted stone in his pocket. It pulsed warmly, a steady rhythm, as though it was calling him to something beyond the forest's borders. "Old oak," Timmy called, his voice carrying through the forest. The ancient tree responded with a gentle creak of its branches, a soft rustling of leaves in the wind. "You feel it too," came old oak's voice, low and resonant, as though it came from the very ground itself. "The winds are changing. There is something on the horizon." "What is it?" Timmy asked, his brow furrowing. He had learned to trust his intuition, and now it was telling him that something significant was approaching. Something unfamiliar. Old oak's deep sigh echoed through the forest. "The balance is shifting, Timmy. Forces beyond our comprehension are stirring. There are those who seek to harness the forest's power, to control it for their own desires. And they will not stop until they have it." Timmy's heart clenched. He had long been the protector, the one who safeguarded the forest from harm, but this was different. This wasn't just a matter of keeping the darkness at bay, this was about something much larger, something that threatened the very essence of the forest itself. "Who are they?" Timmy asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. "Their name is lost to time," old oak explained, "but their presence is not. The ones who seek the heart of the forest are called the Shadowborn. They have long searched for the source of the forest's magic, hoping to wield it for their own gain. But they are not of this world. They come from a place beyond the veil, a realm of shadow and silence." Timmy's grip tightened on the stone. The Shadowborn sounded like a force far darker than anything he had faced before. He had fought the heart of corruption, but this was something different. Something older. "You must stop them before they can reach the heart of the forest," old oak warned, the urgency in its voice unmistakable. "If they succeed, the forest will wither. Its magic will be lost, and the balance will be shattered. And you, Timmy, will be unable to protect it." Timmy took a deep breath. He knew the path ahead would be difficult, perhaps the most challenging one yet. But he was ready. He had faced the darkness before, and he would do so again. He could not allow the Shadowborn to claim the forest's heart. "I won't let them win," Timmy said firmly, his voice full of conviction. "Where do I find them?" Old oak's branches swayed, and a deep rumble echoed from the depths of the earth. "They are already here. They are closer than you think." Timmy's search for the Shadowborn took him deep into the forest. beyond places he had never ventured before. There were whispers among the trees, rumors of places where the veil between realms grew thin, where the physical world and the shadowy realm of the Shadowborn converged. He had never encountered anything like this, and the deeper he traveled, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. The once familiar sounds of the forest seemed muted, swallowed by an unnatural silence. The leaves, once bright and vibrant, now appeared dull and withered. The path before him seemed to twist and bend in unnatural ways, leading him further into an unknown darkness. The enchanted stone in his pocket grew warmer, almost feverish in its intensity. It was no longer a mere guide. It was a beacon, a lifeline. He could feel the magic of the forest converging around him, guiding him toward the heart of the disturbance. And then, as the mist grew thicker and the shadows deeper, he saw it. A shimmering portal, barely visible to the naked eye, swirling like smoke in the wind. It pulsed with a dark energy, a silent call from the other side. Timmy approached cautiously, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. This was it. The portal to the Shadowborn's realm. Taking a deep breath, Timmy stepped forward, crossing the threshold of the portal. Immediately, the world around him shifted. The forest, with its trees and its magic, was gone. Instead, he found himself standing in a barren wasteland, a realm of twisted, shadowed trees that seemed to writhe and groan, their bark blackened and their leaves a sickly gray. The sky above was an oppressive blanket of dark clouds, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. In the distance, he saw figures moving, shrouded in darkness, their forms almost indistinguishable from the shadows around them. The Shadowborn. A chill ran down his spine. These beings were not like anything he had encountered before. They exuded an ancient, malevolent energy, and their presence seemed to warp the very fabric of reality around them. "You should not have come, child," a voice echoed from the shadows. It was cold and emotionless, like the sound of wind through dead branches. Timmy turned to face the voice. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and cloaked in darkness. Its face was hidden, but its eyes, glowing faintly with an eerie green light, pierced the gloom, locking onto Timmy with unnerving precision. "I will not let you take the heart of the forest," Timmy said, his voice steady. "Your time is over." The Shadowborn figure tilted its head, a sinister smile stretching across its face. "You think you can stop us? We are ancient. The forest's heart will be ours, and nothing, no one, can prevent it." Timmy's grip tightened around the enchanted stone in his pocket. He knew what he had to do. The stone had always been his guide, his link to the forest's power. And now, it was time to call upon that power like never before. The ground beneath his feet trembled as the stone pulsed brightly, and the magic of the forest surged within him, flooding his senses. The light from the stone grew brighter, pushing back the shadows around him. "You may have ancient power," Timmy said, his voice unwavering. "But the forest has its own strength, and I will protect it." The Shadowborn figure stepped forward, its form shifting like smoke in the air. "You are too weak, Timmy. The heart of the forest is beyond your control. You will never stop us." But Timmy was not afraid. The power of the enchanted stone, the magic of the forest, flowed through him, filling him with the strength and wisdom of the trees, the animals, the very earth beneath his feet. He raised the stone high, and the light from within it exploded, piercing the darkness. The Shadowborn hissed, retreating into the shadows, but Timmy followed. The battle had only just begun. The battle between Timmy and the Shadowborn raged on, the very air around them crackling with energy. Timmy could feel the darkness trying to invade his mind, trying to twist his thoughts, but the enchanted stone pulsed in his hand, its light cutting through the shadows like a beacon. The Shadowborn hissed as the light pushed against them, their forms shifting and contorting in the darkness. They were creatures of the void, born from a realm where light had never touched. But Timmy's connection to the forest was something they could never comprehend. The heart of the forest had chosen him, and it had filled him with a magic that was stronger than any shadow. "You cannot win," the Shadowborn leader hissed, its glowing green eyes narrowing. "We have been here long before your forest. We will consume it, just as we will consume you." Timmy's heart pounded in his chest, but he stood his ground. You may have been here before, but the forest will outlast you. Its magic is timeless. Its heart is indestructible." With those words, Timmy raised the stone higher. The light from within it intensified, bathing the entire realm in a blinding white glow. The Shadowborn recoiled, their forms disintegrating into wisps of smoke as the pure magic of the forest washed over them. "You're not welcome here," Timmy said, his voice filled with determination. "Leave this place and never return." The shadows screamed in agony as the light overwhelmed them. Their forms flickered and shattered, piece by piece, until they were nothing more than faint wisps of darkness, drifting away on the wind. The Shadowborn had been vanquished, but the battle was far from over. The veil between realms had been weakened, and there was still one final step to take. The enchanted stone pulsed one last time, and in the distance, Timmy saw it, the heart of the forest, glowing with an ethereal light. It stood at the center of the barren wasteland, now pulsing in sync with the enchanted stone in his hand. Timmy knew that to truly protect the forest, he had to restore the heart to its rightful place. The land around him began to shift, the shadows dissipating, and the once barren realm began to heal. New shoots of green sprouted from the ground, flowers bloomed, and the air became filled with the scent of fresh life. The magic of the forest was returning. Timmy made his way to the heart of the forest, stepping carefully over the now soft ground. As he approached the glowing crystal, the power of the enchanted stone surged within him, guiding him to the center of the heart. He could feel the connection between them, the stone and the heart, both parts of the same magic. The light from the heart pulsed brighter as Timmy raised the stone, placing it against the crystal. For a moment, there was an explosion of light, blinding him completely. The very essence of the forest, the very life force that had been stolen by the Shadowborn, returned to its rightful place. When the light finally faded, Timmy found himself standing at the center of a restored forest. The sky had cleared, and the trees stretched high above him, their branches once again thick with life. The heart of the forest glowed with a soft, radiant light, its power now fully restored. Timmy looked down at the enchanted stone in his hand, which had returned to its original size, its glow steady and calm. It had fulfilled its purpose, just as he had. He had protected the forest, not just from the Shadowborn, but from the forces that sought to destroy its very essence. With the forest healed and the Shadowborn banished, Timmy knew his role as protector was far from over. The heart of the forest had been restored, but the world outside the forest was still full of dangers, and new threats would surely arise. Yet, Timmy had learned something vital. The forest's magic wasn't just about power, it was about balance. And as long as the balance remained, the forest would endure. Timmy stood at the edge of the forest, looking out over the land that stretched beyond. He had spent so many years in these woods, protecting them, learning from them. But now, he knew it was time to venture beyond. His journey as a protector had led him to many places, some known and some unknown, and the path before him now called him forward. He turned back toward Old Oak, who had remained a constant presence in his life, its ancient form standing tall at the center of the forest. "You have done well, Timmy," Old Oak said, its voice full of pride. "The heart has been restored, and the balance has been kept. But remember this, the forest is always with you. The magic you carry within you will guide you, wherever you may go." Timmy smiled, his heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, Old Oak. You were my teacher. Without you, I would have never understood the true magic of this place." Old Oak's branches swayed in the breeze, and the forest seemed to hum with approval. "You will always be a part of the forest, Timmy. Wherever you go, you carry its heart with you." As Timmy stepped away, he could feel the warmth of the forest's magic settle into his chest, a gentle, reassuring presence. The forest had become a part of him, and he of it. No matter where his journey took him, he knew that the bond they shared would never be broken. And so, Timmy walked into the future, his heart light and his purpose clear. He would continue to protect the balance, to guard the forests and the lands, and to share the lessons he had learned with others. There would always be new challenges, new guardians to train, and new magic to discover. For Timmy, the forest was not just a place. It was a way of life, a living, breathing entity that he would protect with every ounce of his being. And as long as the heart of the forest beat, so too would Timmy's legacy as its guardian. The journey was far from over. It had only just begun. This marks the conclusion of Timmy's epic journey as the protector of the forest. He has faced unimaginable challenges, fought the forces of darkness, and restored balance to the natural world. His connection with the forest is now a part of him, and his legacy as its guardian continues, knowing that his journey will always lead him back to the heart of the land he swore to protect.